You won't believe what happened at Emeka's graduation. A heartwarming story of strength, justice, and redemption. Her mother arrived at her son's graduation, and her disheveled appearance coupled with what the young man said into the microphone left all the guests in shock. Ngozi was a woman of strength, a fighter, and humble despite her age. She carried the weight of raising her son, Emeka, alone as a widow since she was pregnant. Her life was marked by constant difficulties and challenges. Emeka's father had passed away too soon, a victim of illness. Since then, Ngozi faced the harsh reality of supporting the family without help, selling handmade goods in the bustling streets of Lagos. Each day was a battle from dawn until dusk. Ngozi would wake up early, even before the first rays of the sun, to prepare her goods with skill and dexterity. She shaped each item, each one holding a bit of her soul and effort. While working, her thoughts always returned to Emeka. Despite his young age, Emeka understood his mother's struggle and did his best to help her as much as his age allowed. "Mother, let me help with the goods today," he insisted every morning. "No, my son, you must go to school," Ngozi would reply with a tender smile on her lips. "But mother, you need me. I can help you after school," Emeka argued with the stubbornness typical of his age. "You are my angel, Emeka. You don't need to help. Focus on your studies," she murmured. She knew that education was the key to a better future, something she desperately wished for him. Emeka was a brilliant young man who studied at an elite private school in Lagos. He was a scholarship student with a strong desire to succeed in life. Despite his sharp intellect and determination, he faced the daily challenge of not belonging to the same social circle as his peers. One afternoon, while waiting for class to start, Emeka was approached by one of his classmates, Chinedu, an arrogant boy from a wealthy family. "Hey Emeka, why are you still using that old phone? Can't you buy a new one? Let me show you the latest models." "I'm sure your family can afford it," Chinedu teased, a superior smile on his lips. Emeka felt the heat of shame rising to his face, but maintained his composure and replied, "It's not a matter of money, Chinedu. My phone works perfectly well for what I need." Soon after, another taunt came from Ifini, a spoiled boy who always had the latest gadgets. "Emeka, why are you still using that small, outdated tablet to study? Can't you buy a bigger and more modern one? I'm sure your family doesn't want you to fall behind," Ifini said with a sarcastic smile on his face. Emeka felt a tightening in his chest but remained firm. "My tablet may not be the latest, but it serves me perfectly well, and I'm more interested in what I do with it than in showing it off," he responded. Ifini gave Emeka a disdainful look, clearly surprised by his resolute response. "Huh. Look at who's trying to act tough. We all know you're just a poor guy trying to pretend to be someone you're not. Your family must be struggling a lot to get you into this school, right?" Ifini mocked, his voice echoing down the corridor. "You can think whatever you want, Ifini, but my family is amazing and does everything to give me the best opportunities, and I will never be ashamed of that," Emeka replied, his voice firm and determined. Ifini frowned, and for a moment, the disdainful glint in his eyes wavered, replaced by a look of perplexity. "You're really a lost cause, Emeka. You'll never understand what it's like to have the best in life. But don't worry, I'll make sure everyone knows how much of a failure you are," Ifini said before walking away with a venomous smile on his face. Emeka watched Ifini walk away, feeling a mix of relief and indignation. He knew Ifini's words weren't true, but they still hurt. Emeka took a deep breath, trying to hold back the tears that threatened to escape his eyes. He forced himself to maintain his posture, walking toward the bathroom with firm steps, but inside, his heart was shattered. Once in the bathroom, he locked himself in one of the stalls and finally let the tears flow, sobbing quietly as he leaned against the cold wall. "I know it's hard now, but I have to be strong. I will finish my studies and go to university. I will be an excellent professional to repay everything my mother does for me. I will make all the difficulties worthwhile. I promise you, mother." Emeka stayed in the bathroom for a while, then dried his tears, took a deep breath, and looked at his blurred reflection in the mirror. "I will keep going," he said. With this determination, he left the bathroom and went to the classroom. After class, Emeka walked to the street where his mother usually stayed selling goods. "Hi, mother," he murmured, giving her a gentle kiss on her forehead. "How was school today, Emeka?" She noticed he was acting strange and asked with concern, "Were you crying?" "No, mother, it's just an allergy," he lied, forcing a smile. He didn't want to worry his mother with his own problems, especially when she already had so many to deal with. Emeka decided to change the subject to distract his mother. "Mother, today was such a busy day. We had 3 tests, and I still need to finish a science project," he said. "I know, my son. I know it's hard, but remember, all this effort will be worth it. You are building your future one brick at a time," Ngozi replied. Emeka continued, "I just keep thinking if I can keep up this pace, mother. Sometimes it feels like it's too much for me." Ngozi, with a firm and encouraging look, said, "Emeka, my dear, you have already shown to be stronger and more capable than many. Take advantage of every opportunity to learn and grow. Failures are just steps on the ladder to success. There's no shame in stumbling as long as you're always ready to get up and move forward. I believe in you more than anything in this world, and I know you will achieve everything you dream of because you have the heart and mind for it. Your determination is your greatest strength." "Thank you, mother. With you by my side, I feel like I can face anything," Emeka said, a smile forming on his lips, renewed by the confidence Ngozi's words gave him. Emeka didn't talk about his family at school. He rarely, if ever, mentioned his mother's name among his classmates and teachers. He was a reserved boy both at school and at home. Although he was not ashamed of Ngozi or the hard work she did selling handmade goods on the streets of Lagos to support them, Emeka was driven by a deep fear that she could be the target of humiliation or pity feelings. He considered himself unworthy of the woman he admired so much. This concern led him to voluntarily silence his family life at school. One sunny afternoon, with a provocative smile, Ifeanyi approached with malicious curiosity shining in his eyes. "Hey Emeka, I've always wanted to ask you. You never talk about your family. Who are they? What do they do?" The question, although simple, carried the weight of not-so-innocent intentions. "Ifeanyi, I really don't think I have to talk about my private life here. What matters is what we do at school, not outside of it," Emeka replied, his gaze direct and challenging, trying to cut off any attempt by Ifeanyi to invade his privacy. Ifeanyi insisted, "Oh, come on, Emeka. It's just a simple question. You make it seem like you have some big secret. Everyone here talks about their families. Why are you different?" At that moment, Chinedu joined them, his curiosity piqued by the conversation. "We're trying to find out more about Emeka's mysterious family. Here he seems to think his life is an episode of some TV drama," Chinedu mocked, trying to elicit some reaction from his colleague. Emeka maintained his posture and replied, "As I already told Ifeanyi, I don't see any reason to talk about my family life here. What my family does or doesn't do is no one's business in this school. We're here to study, right? So let's focus on that." There was an aura of mystery around Emeka regarding his life outside of school. His classmates and teachers knew only the basics. He was a boy from a humble family, endowed with sharp intelligence and unshakable determination. During a break, the teachers gathered, and the subject of Emeka's exceptional academic and personal qualities came up. They highlighted that the teenager's understanding went beyond his age, and that he enriched classroom discussions. Furthermore, Emeka's determination was evident even without the same material resources as other students. He was an example that talent and determination can triumph over adversity, serving as a reminder of the true purpose of education. Ifeanyi and Chinedu happened to be passing by and overheard the conversation. Chinedu, with a voice full of irony and poison, said, "Ah yes, the teacher's darling. I bet he only gets good grades because the teachers feel sorry for him, knowing his situation." Ifeanyi, eager to add his dose of malice, followed Chinedu's comment. "Exactly. It's not like he's really smarter than us. It's all a matter of sympathy. He plays the poor role, and everyone falls for it." Chinedu and Ifeanyi were driven by poorly disguised envy. Despite their favorable material conditions, they couldn't match Emeka's school performance, which fueled their attempts to belittle him. However, Emeka's qualities were undeniable, but there was a reason for that. Mrs. Ngozi, Emeka's mother, even after long hours selling goods on the streets of Lagos, found the strength to encourage Emeka to dedicate himself to his studies. One night, while sharing a modest meal, Ngozi looked at Emeka and said, "Emeka, my son, I see how hard you work, and it fills my heart with joy. But never forget, Knowledge is the most powerful tool you can have. It's something no one can take away from you. I know, Mother, and I promise I'll take advantage of every opportunity to learn and grow. I want you to be proud of me, he replied. I am already very proud of you, but I want you to have opportunities I never had. A quality education can open doors we can't even imagine. I want you to have a life with fewer difficulties, more choices. Every hour of study, every book you read, is building the path to a bright future. You have the potential, my son. Use it to the fullest, Ngozi encouraged. The next day, while Emeka was getting ready to go to school, Ngozi hugged him tightly and whispered in his ear, "Make this day another step towards your dreams. Remember, I am here for you, cheering for you every step of the way. Thank you, Mother. I hope you have an excellent workday. I hope today is calm and that you sell all your goods. I love you, and I will study hard so that one day I can repay you for everything you do for me," Emeka responded. "I love you too, Emeka. Have a good day at school. I am very proud of you," Ngozi said. With this exchange of love and encouragement, Emeka left home, and after a few minutes, his mother also headed out to the street where she worked. Upon reaching her usual spot, Ngozi greeted the other vendors with a nod and a shy smile before carefully arranging her goods, presenting them as attractively as possible. It did not take long for the first customers of the day to start approaching, drawn by the handmade crafts on display. "Good morning. Would you like to try one of my crafts? They are made with much love and care," she offered, always keeping her voice kind regardless of the reception. Although many customers greeted Ngozi with smiles and thanks when visiting her stall, she occasionally faced less kind individuals. Some people looked at her with disdain, questioning how someone with her appearance could expect to sell anything, suggesting that she should be begging for alms instead of selling goods. There were also those who criticized Ngozi's calloused hands, insinuating that this would drive customers away. Ngozi, with her unshakable composure, calmly responded that the quality and care with which she made her goods were not affected by her appearance, standing firm in the dignity of her work and the quality of her products regardless of judgments. On a particularly hot spring day, two teenagers suddenly approached the stall. They were Chinedu and Ifeanyi, Emeka's schoolmates. With the typical arrogance of those who had never faced true hardships in life, they began to mock her. "Look at this seller, so poor and poorly dressed. Does she really think that selling these goods will get her anywhere in life?" Ifeanyi said. Chinedu joined in the mockery, "Really pathetic. We are rich, our parents have money, unlike you, who have to stay in the sun all day. I bet you would not get out of this miserable life, even in 1,000 years." Hearing these cruel words, Ngozi felt a pang of pain in her heart. It was painful to be judged and humiliated, especially by young people the same age as her son. She realized they attended the same school as her son due to the uniforms they wore, and wondered how privileged young people could be so lacking in empathy and kindness. However, Ngozi did not let herself be intimidated and said, "We all have our struggles and dreams. I hope that one day you understand the value of hard work and respect for others." The teenagers, not expecting such a thoughtful response, were momentarily taken aback. Chinedu's face hardened, and Ifeanyi let out a forced laugh. "Whatever, we will stay rich, and you will stay here selling your little goods on the street," Chinedu muttered before they walked away, leaving Ngozi alone with her thoughts. Despite the unpleasant encounter, Ngozi did not allow the negativity of those young people to shake her spirit. At the end of the day, while packing her things to go home, Ngozi reflected on the incident. The gratuitous cruelty of the boys made her worry about the kind of influences Emeka might be facing at school. She wondered if her son was also the target of such mockery, and how he dealt with it. Ngozi decided to talk to Emeka about his school life, reinforcing the importance of remaining open with each other about their experiences and challenges. That night, while preparing dinner, Ngozi waited for the right moment to start a conversation with Emeka. With a soft look and a voice full of affection, she began, "Emeka, my son, I always want you to feel comfortable telling me anything. Have you had any problems at school recently?" Emeka, surprised by the sudden question, hesitated for a moment. He pondered the numerous times he had faced mockery and malicious comments from some classmates, including Chinedu and Ifeanyi. However, he chose to keep his problems to himself. "No, mother, everything is fine at school," he replied. forcing a smile that he hoped was convincing. Ngozi observed her son and could feel that there was something he was not sharing. "You know you can tell me anything, right? No matter what it is, we face it together as we always have." Emeka lowered his eyes to his plate, gratitude mixed with a tinge of guilt for keeping secrets from his mother. "I know, mother, and I appreciate that, but really, everything is fine. I am just a little tired from studying. Nothing for you to worry about." "All right, my son, but remember, I am here for whatever you need," Ngozi said, avoiding pressing her son as they finished dinner. Emeka was pensive. He felt guilty for not telling his mother the truth. Alone in his room, surrounded by books and notebooks scattered on the study table, Emeka allowed himself a few moments of reflection. Just a few more months, he murmured to himself, trying to find some relief in the countdown to finishing his studies. Graduation symbolized not only the end of a cycle but also the promise of a new beginning, away from the taunts and social pressures of school. Emeka decided that he would do everything to protect his mother, keeping her safe from unnecessary worries and pains, at least for now, just until graduation. He promised himself that after that, he would have the opportunity to open new paths and build a different reality for both of them. "For her, I can endure," he said to himself with firm determination. This inner strength, fueled by love and the desire to repay everything his mother had done, kept him standing ready to face the world outside, day after day, until he could finally offer Ngozi the future she so deserved. The day of graduation finally arrived, a long-awaited milestone in the lives of Emeka and Ngozi. Emeka woke up early, driven by a mix of nervousness and excitement. He was the class speaker, an honor and responsibility he took very seriously. He dressed with the utmost care, choosing an outfit that reflected the importance of the day. Before leaving, he met Ngozi in the living room, where they exchanged a look full of meaning. "Mother, I am going. I want to check everything before it starts," he said, his voice full of hopeful anxiety. Ngozi, in turn, smiled, looking at her son with pride. "Go ahead, my son. I know you will be amazing. I am so proud of you," she replied, holding back tears that threatened to fall. After Emeka left, Ngozi returned to her room to start her own preparations. She had saved for months, giving up small luxuries to buy a white dress, which she had carefully chosen for the occasion. The dress, simple but elegant, was complemented by a pair of wine-colored high-heeled shoes, a combination she had never imagined wearing but that seemed perfect for this special day. While dressing, Ngozi allowed herself to daydream, imagining the ceremony and the joy of seeing Emeka receive his diploma. Determined to complete her look, she went to a local beauty salon where she had booked appointments for her hair, nails, and makeup. Sitting in the salon chair, being pampered and cared for, she felt like she was living a dream. She knew that day would be a turning point in Emeka's life and hers, the beginning of a new chapter full of promises and challenges for the family. "Today is a special day. My son has finally finished his studies. He will be a great man," she whispered to herself. Finally ready, Ngozi looked in the mirror. The woman staring back at her was almost unrecognizable, not the street vendor from Lagos, but a proud mother in her moment of glory. She looked beautiful, her appearance a representation of maternal joy and pride. Ngozi left the beauty salon, walking toward the graduation venue, feeling every heartbeat, each step a countdown to seeing her son shine. However, something unexpected happened. Ifeanyi and Chinedu were on the same street and recognized her immediately despite her transformed appearance. "Where do you think you're going, all dressed up like that?" Ifeanyi sneered, his smile revealing the malice behind the question. "Don't tell me you stole that dress from someone," he added. Chinedu continued, "Yeah, I don't believe a street vendor can afford to look so dazzling. You must have pulled some scam or stolen it from someone, right?" His words dripped with venom and contempt. "You are very mistaken," she responded with dignity, looking them straight in the eyes. "I neither stole nor scammed anyone. I worked hard to be here today to celebrate a very special moment." Ifeanyi, trying to recover his usual mocking tone, stammered a weak retort. "Well, let's see if anyone else believes this story of working with dignity." Chinedu, equally disconcerted, just added, "This isn't over." Trying to maintain a facade of indifference, though the impact of Ngozi's words had clearly penetrated his armor of disdain, Ifeanyi and Chinedu were still unsatisfied. Ifeni ran after her, insisting on perpetuating their cruelty. Wait, do you really think we're going to let this slide? He challenged Chanadu. We don't believe for a second that you haven't done something wrong to be here like this. Someone like you should pay for trying to appear as something you're not, Ifeni added. Exactly. People like you don't change overnight. You must have scammed someone for sure, and we think it's only fair that you pay for it, Ifeni said. Ngozi stopped facing them again. The determination and courage in her eyes were clear. The only mistake here is believing that a person's worth is measured by their appearance or their bank account. I owe nothing to anyone except my son, and it is for him that I am here today, dressed like this to celebrate his achievements, not mine. Today is my son's graduation. Excuse me, I have more important things to do, she asserted firmly and headed toward the school. Disconcerted by Ngozi's response but still reluctant to admit defeat, Ifeanyi and Chinedu exchanged confused looks. She's going to our school, Chinedu murmured to Ifeanyi, his tone now tinged with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. What's a street vendor doing there? Something's wrong with this, Ifeanyi. Still trying to maintain his superior posture, Ifeanyi responded with disdain. Of course there is. She must be scamming someone. There's no way she has a son at our school. It must be some kind of con, or maybe she's just a lost, crazy woman for sure, he continued. We can't let someone like her, so out of our circle, enter a place as upscale as our graduation. Our school has certain standards to uphold, Chinedu agreed. Yes, of course. But how are we going to do that? Simply tell her to leave, Ifeanyi asked, his voice betraying a hesitation that wasn't there before. Ifeanyi looked around and saw some municipal workers finishing closing a crater in front of the school with some mud around. He walked determinedly and kicked a bucket towards Ngozi. Frightened, Ngozi lost her balance in her high heels and fell into the mud puddle. My God, why are you doing this? What did I do wrong to you? Ngozi asked, mud and tears streaming down her face. You know what you did. You're a scammer, and you're paying for it, Ifeanyi said. Chinedu spoke. Come on, Ifeanyi, our graduation is about to start. This woman has already got what she deserves. They entered the school, and Ngozi sat in front of the institution crying. She felt devastated, with her dress stained with mud and her pride wounded. She pondered her options. The idea of going home and missing Emeka's graduation was inconceivable. Thus, with determination, she decided to face the situation. She entered the school, choosing a secluded spot to sit, hoping to go unnoticed and avoid further embarrassment as the ceremony proceeded. Emeka, the class speaker, looked for his mother in the audience, eager to see her proud. When he finally saw her, his heart stopped for a moment. Ngozi looked like a shadow of herself, with her dress and hair in disarray, clearly shaken. Two guys from the school humiliated me on the street, she explained, her voice trembling with a mix of emotion and shock. It's not the first time they've acted this way, but today they went too far. I just wanted to be here for you, to see you on this important day, she added, her words failing, choked by emotion. Mother, who are these people? Can you recognize them? Emeka asked. Yes, my son, it's those two, she pointed to Ifeanyi and Chinedu. Emeka felt a growing fury inside him. They've humiliated me before, but doing this to you? This won't stand, mother. I'll seek justice for us, Emeka said. Stay calm, my son. Don't do anything that might harm you, Ngozi replied. Don't worry, mother. I'll do it the right way. They can't just get away with it, he affirmed. Emeka walked away from his mother and headed to the podium. He looked at the crowd of faces before him, classmates, teachers, family members all gathered to celebrate the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. With the microphone in hand, his voice echoed through the space. Good evening, everyone. I had prepared a speech with carefully chosen words for this evening, but given what happened today, I can't proceed as if nothing happened. I will break protocol. The audience, surprised by the change in tone, paid attention, captivated by the unexpected seriousness in his voice. Today, more than ever, I realize that the true lessons we take from here are not just in the books but in the actions and character we choose to demonstrate. And that is why I ask my mother, Mrs. Ngozi, the reason I am here today, to join me on stage. Ngozi, sitting in the audience, hesitated upon hearing her name, surprised and still shaken by the earlier events. She didn't know how to react. Emeka insisted, extending his hand towards his mother. Please, nothing bad will happen to you. I'm here to protect you, and I'll only continue if you're by my side, encouraged by Emeka's determined look and the murmurs of encouragement from the audience. She stood up and walked with hesitant but firm steps next to her son at the podium. Emeka took a moment to gather his thoughts before beginning his speech, now with a renewed purpose. The room, filled with anticipation, fell silent, all eyes fixed on him and Ngozi. Emeka held his mother's hands firmly and began, "Tonight, I stand before you not just as the speaker of this class, but as the son of an extraordinary woman, my mother, Ngozi. A woman who became a widow while she was still pregnant with me. She raised me alone, facing countless difficulties, but always with unwavering determination." He paused, looking lovingly at Ngozi before continuing. "Every day, she goes out to sell goods on the streets of our city. She faces the sun, the rain, and most painfully, the humiliations, but she never let herself be defeated because she had a goal to ensure my education, to guarantee a better future for me." Emeka then changed his tone, the seriousness even more pronounced. "Today, before this ceremony, my mother was humiliated by 2 of our classmates. They not only shamed her publicly but also tainted the dignity of this special occasion. I myself have been a target of their humiliations within this school due to our financial situation. I endured it in silence, believing that tolerance could be the answer, but today, when these attacks were directed at my mother, I realized that silence is not the answer. Injustice must be confronted." The audience, attentive to every word, began murmuring, questioning who the boys Emeka referred to were. Emeka was direct. "Ifeanyi and Chinedu are the ones who humiliated my mother and me." Upon hearing the names, many looked with reproach towards where the 2 were sitting, clearly shocked by the revelation. The atmosphere in the room had changed. What was a celebration now became a moment of collective reflection on the actions and values of the school community. Emeka paused, taking a deep breath to control his emotions, and looked into his mother's eyes. "Mother, you are my inspiration. Every sacrifice, every tear, every smile, it was all for me, and I am here today because of you. I love you more than words can express, and I promise that all your efforts will be worthwhile. I will become someone you will be proud of. Not just as your son, but as a human being who will follow your example of strength and compassion. You are the bravest warrior I know. You taught me the true definition of struggle and overcoming." Tears flowed from Ngozi's eyes and those of the graduation attendees. Emeka concluded his speech today. "I want us to reflect on the kind of people we want to be and the kind of community we want to build, a community that stands against injustice and supports each other no matter what. No one deserves to be humiliated. I am saying these words because I want to fight for and defend people who go through bad situations like my mother and I did." Emeka's speech deeply moved everyone present. People stood up, giving him a standing ovation. Emotional comments could be heard from the audience. "I've never heard such beautiful and sincere words from a son to his mother. It's truly inspiring. This young man is an example of gratitude and love," said an elderly woman. "Emeka made me want to be a better person the way he spoke about his mother. That is courage, that is true love," said a young man. Even people who didn't know Emeka and Ngozi personally felt touched. "Wow, this boy and his mother's story shows the power of family, the power of love. I'm truly impacted. They deserve all the success in the world," said a visitor who had come to watch a nephew's graduation. However, not everyone was pleased with the speech. Ifeanyi and Chinedu's families remained seated, their hands still, their faces marked by deep shame. The pride and joy that should accompany a graduation celebration had been replaced by a feeling of embarrassment due to their son's actions. After the speech, while groups of people gathered to talk, Ifeanyi and Chinedu's behavior became the focus of many discussions. How can boys from good families be so cruel? Was the question many were asking, trying to understand the disconnect between the upbringing received at home and the actions practiced at school. Emeka's revelation exposed not only the cruelty of their actions but also provoked a broader reflection on the values taught and lived within the community. Ifeanyi's parents, hearing the murmur and veiled criticisms, felt the weight of shattered expectations. They had invested in the best schools and provided every opportunity, but somehow failed to teach their sons that everyone deserves respect, regardless of their financial or social status. In response to Ifeanyi's unacceptable behavior, his parents expressed deep disappointment, highlighting how his actions deviated from the family values taught. The severity of his mistake resulted in the loss of the car promised as a graduation gift and the new responsibility of covering his own expenses, marking the beginning of an important lesson about the value of money and respect. Ifeanyi's attempts at apologies were promptly rejected by his parents, who emphasized the need to learn from his mistakes and treat everyone with dignity. Chinedu also received a lesson from his parents. They expressed deep disappointment and shame over his behavior on graduation night, highlighting the many calls from outraged parents and admitting they shared that sentiment. The failure to teach respect and empathy was acknowledged, and the consequences of Chinedu's actions were imposed: the cancellation of his trip to the United States and the end of his allowance, with the requirement that he start working at the family factory. This work was presented not as punishment but as an opportunity for growth and learning about the value of effort and the consequences of his choices, in the hope that Chinedu would reflect and learn from his mistakes. A month after graduation, Ifeanyi and Chinedu experienced an unexpected event. Both received a legal notice. Emeka had hired a lawyer and filed a lawsuit against the two boys. The news of the lawsuit quickly spread, reigniting discussions about the consequences of their actions and the importance of individual responsibility. Upon receiving the notice, Ifeanyi was terrified. Sitting in the living room with the notice in hand, he murmured to himself, "This is really happening." Chinedu faced a similar reaction. "Now this problem too," he said. Finally, the day of the hearing arrived in court. The tension was palpable. The parties involved, their families, and some curious onlookers that the story had attracted filled the room with a mixture of expectation and anxiety. Emeka and Ngozi sat, trying to stay calm while waiting for the hearing to begin. Ngozi's gaze alternated between her son and the boys who had caused them so much pain, searching somewhere within herself to find space for forgiveness. Ifeanyi and Chinedu entered the courtroom with somber expressions. They sat on the opposite side of the room, avoiding eye contact with Ngozi but aware of their presence. When the judge called the session to order, the silence deepened. Emeka's lawyer began to present the case. "Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we are here today to address a case that transcends a mere isolated act of humiliation. This case touches on the values that, as a society, we strive to uphold and defend: respect, dignity, and protection against abuse and public humiliation. My client, Emeka, and his mother, Ngozi, were subjected to treatment that no human being should face. On Emeka's graduation day, a moment that should have been filled with celebration and joy, they were victims of a despicable act by the defendants, Ifeanyi and Chinedu. An act not only of cruelty but also of public humiliation, designed to belittle and harm." He paused for a moment, and then continued, "The evidence we will present demonstrates not only the act itself but also the pattern of behavior of the defendants. This behavior stems from a lack of respect for the basic principles of decency and empathy. The issue we bring before this court today is not just about seeking compensation for the damage caused, it is about unequivocally affirming that our community does not tolerate such actions. It is about ensuring that acts of humiliation and abuse are met with the full force of the law, so we can protect the well-being and dignity of all our citizens." Concluding his statement, the lawyer looked directly at the judge. "Your Honor, throughout this process, we ask that you consider not only the facts presented but also the lasting impact such acts can have on the victims. We seek a sentence that not only fairly punishes the defendants but also sends a clear message that our society values and protects mutual respect and dignity above all." After the impactful statement from Emeka's lawyer, Ifeanyi and Chinedu's defense attorney stood up and began defending his clients. "Your Honor, members of the jury, we are here to discuss the actions of two young men, Ifeanyi and Chinedu, who undoubtedly acted recklessly. However, it is crucial to understand the context of these actions. They are, at their core, merely immature boys whose decisions were guided more by the characteristic lack of judgment of youth than by any genuine malice. It is undeniable that the incident in question was unfortunate and regrettable. However, to classify these actions as malicious or to attribute to them an intent to deliberately humiliate and degrade is to ignore the true nature of youthful immaturity, the lawyer continued, seeking to minimize the severity of the incident. We must recognize that the emotion and psychological development of adolescents is not complete. They are, by nature, prone to impulsive behaviors, often without the ability to fully foresee the consequences of their actions. This does not absolve them of responsibility, but it should be considered when evaluating the intent behind their actions. Concluding his defense, the lawyer looked at the judge and the jury, emphasizing his final message. Ultimately, Your Honor, members of the jury, we ask that you see Ifeanyi and Chinedu not as criminals but as young men who made a grave mistake, a mistake from which they are ready to learn, and for which they are willing to make amends. Our goal should be to guide them back onto the right path, not to discard them for an act of immaturity. After carefully considering the evidence presented and the arguments from both sides, the judge took a few moments to reflect before delivering the verdict. Finally, the judge began to speak, his clear and authoritative voice echoing through the room. After careful consideration of the evidence presented and the arguments from both sides, a decision has been reached. While I understand the impulsive nature associated with youth, I cannot ignore the fact that both are of age and, as such, fully capable of understanding the consequences of their actions. The actions perpetrated against Mrs. Ngozi and her son Emeka were not mere pranks, they had serious consequences and caused real harm. Therefore, it is essential that they also face serious consequences for these actions, the judge continued. Ifeanyi and Chinedu are hereby sentenced to 6 months in prison. Additionally, they are required to pay significant compensation to Emeka and Mrs. Ngozi for the emotional damages and public humiliation they caused. The courtroom reacted with surprised murmurs at the severity of the verdict, but there was a palpable sense of justice being served. The judge concluded, "This court hopes that this time in confinement and the obligation to compensate the victims financially will serve as a harsh but necessary lesson for them to understand the gravity of their actions and the impact they can have on the lives of others." After the hearing, Emeka and Ngozi left the courthouse together, a visible weight being lifted from their shoulders with each step they took. Emeka looked at his mother, a smile of relief forming on his face. "Mother, justice has been served. No one will ever humiliate us again." Ngozi, with tears in her eyes, not of sadness but of relief and gratitude, said, "I know, my son. Today you showed me that we can always fight for what is right, no matter how difficult it seems. I promised myself that I would protect you, that I would ensure justice was done. I couldn't let what happened go without consequences," Emeka continued, his determination clear in his voice. "We deserve respect. We deserve to live without fear." Ngozi smiled proudly. "You have grown so much, Emeka. Your father would be so proud of you, just as I am. You fought not just for us but for everyone who has been wronged and didn't have the chance to defend themselves." As Emeka and Ngozi headed home, a feeling of relief and satisfaction filled the air. In contrast, Ifeanyi and Chinedu faced the beginning of a much darker reality. Taken to prison, the two young men found themselves sharing the same cell, a small and uncomfortable space that would become their world for the next 6 months. What at first seemed like a brief sentence quickly turned into an eternity, each day dragging on slowly, marked by the weight of regret and the harsh reality of life in prison. Inside the cell, conversations between Ifeanyi and Chinedu often revolved around their mistakes. "I would give anything to go back in time and do things differently," Ifeanyi confessed in a moment of vulnerability, his words echoing against the cold walls of the cell. Chinedu nodded, sharing the sentiment. "We were idiots. We thought we were untouchable, that our actions had no consequences. How wrong I was," he said, his voice low, fighting against the guilt consuming him. "Do you think they'll ever forgive us?" Ifeanyi asked, referring to Emeka and Ngozi. The uncertainty weighed on his voice. The idea of facing the people they had hurt, even in thought, was a constant source of anguish. Chinedu sighed, unsure of the answer. "I don't know, but what I do know is that when we get out of here, we have to do everything to make up for our mistakes. We have to show that we've learned something from all this." "Do you remember the day of the graduation? We were really cruel," Ifeanyi asked, his voice heavy with remorse. Chinedu looked at the floor, his memories of the day haunting him. Yes, I remember what we did. It was horrible. I don't know how we could have thought it was just a joke. We humiliated Ngozi in front of everyone, tarnished one of the most important days of Emeka's life. And for what? To feel superior? It was a terrible mistake, Ifeni said. Chinedu agreed. I would give anything to be able to go back and change what we did, but now all we can do is learn from it and try to make amends somehow. They didn't deserve what we did. No one deserves to be treated that way. We need to apologize somehow, show them that we truly regret our actions, Ifeni added. Chinedu nodded, yes, we need to do that. When we get out of here, it will be our chance to show that we changed. We need to prove that we're no longer the same boys who walked into this cell, that we can be better. This dialogue between Ifeni and Chinedu in prison marked the beginning of a profound change in both, recognizing the cruelty of their actions on graduation day and the serious mistake they had made. They began to understand the importance of taking responsibility for their actions and the power of regret and change. After serving their 6-month sentence, Ifeni and Chinedu were determined to start repairing the damage caused by their past actions. One of the first things they decided to do was to seek out Ngozi to offer a sincere apology. Upon investigating, they discovered that Ngozi had stopped selling goods on the street and, with Emeka's help, now owned her own cafe. When they asked to speak with Ngozi, they were taken to her office, where they found her busy with paperwork. But she still received them with a serenity that surprised them. We came to apologize for everything we did. We know we were very wrong, and we are sincerely sorry, Ifeni said, his voice trembling. Chinedu took a breath and said, Mrs. Ngozi, what happened was unacceptable, and I am here humbly to ask for your forgiveness. I am truly sorry for all the suffering we caused you. Please accept my sincere apologies. After a long pause, Ngozi finally spoke, what you did was very painful, not only for me but especially for Emeka. But I believe in people's ability to change. If your regret is genuine, I can forgive you. At that moment, Emeka entered the office, surprised to find Ifeni and Chinedu there. His posture immediately became defensive. What's going on here? Are you here to bother my mother again? Ifeni quickly intervened. No, Emeka. It's nothing like that. We came here precisely to apologize to your mother and now to you as well. We know what we did in the past was unacceptable, and we are here to take full responsibility and ask for your forgiveness. Emeka, initially skeptical, pondered their words for a moment. Seeing the sincerity in their eyes, his expression softened. All right, I accept your apologies. But I hope you both have truly learned from this and will do better from now on, he said. His tone, although still cautious, carried a hope that these apologies marked the beginning of a true change in Ifeaye and Chinedu. This unexpected meeting in Ngozi's office was a turning point, not only for Ifeni and Chinedu but also for Emeka and Ngozi. It demonstrated the power of genuine remorse, forgiveness, and the possibility of redemption even after the gravest mistakes. For everyone involved, it was an important step on the path to healing and mutual understanding. This powerful story highlights the importance of resilience, the value of education, and the profound impact of empathy and forgiveness. Emeka's unwavering determination to support his mother and rise above adversity serves as an inspiring example of how love and dedication can overcome even the harshest challenges. Moreover, the transformation of Ifeni and Chinedu underscores that genuine remorse and the willingness to change are crucial for personal growth and redemption. It teaches us that every individual has the capacity to learn from their mistakes and strive towards becoming better versions of themselves. O Allah, the most merciful and compassionate, we seek your guidance and strength in our times of struggle. Grant us the patience and resilience to overcome our challenges and the wisdom to treat others with kindness and respect. Forgive our shortcomings and help us to grow in understanding and empathy. Bless Emeka and Ngozi with continued success and protect them from harm. Guide Ifeni and Chinedu towards the path of repentance and self-improvement. May your divine light illuminate our hearts, fostering forgiveness, unity, and love among all. Amin.